Max Verstappen, the polarizing figure, often misunderstood, controversial. There are so many ways he's been described over the years, but potential and talent was one that he had from the start. So many questions he had, but how was he done at achieving that? Let's look at the 3 times Max Verstappen has shown us he is the talent everyone claimed he was. At just 17 years old, Max Verstappen was under a lot of pressure over the F1 community of who he will pick to go and drive for. He was sought after by them all, but the one team that secured them, they will take the gamble and the risk. It was Red Bull, moving him into a Toro Rosso F1 seat at only 17 years old. And to put that into context, Oscar Piastri is the current youngest on the grid at only 23. Max showed maturity, ability, he's shown it all, but the questions were there. Is he old enough? Is he good enough? Well, he went on to answer some of them questions. Yes, at the start of his career, he had a few issues. He was known as a hard racer, an aggressive driver, often critiqued for his approach, but the talent was there from lap 1. So let's talk about the times that Max Verstappen really showcased that talent. 2015, Singapore is a great example of where Max Verstappen was going to be. If you didn't believe him by this point, after that race, you were believing there is an F1 great under that helmet, a future champion, and all the doubts people had, they were starting to go away. His first year wasn't necessarily perfect, but as a 17-year-old, he was showing signs of raw ability that was unmatched by many across the grid. During this race, he qualified 8th, and you think it's going to start well. It was only 2 to 3 tenths off the pace of the Mercedes, so he had hope of getting somewhere, but already it was a great starting point. But on the first lap, his car stalls at the start, gets stuck in gear. They didn't give up. They did put him back into the pit. They did manage to get him going, and when he rejoined, he was dead last. Obviously, a lap down already, so you thought he needs some luck. But was the luck around the corner? Oh yes, it was. On lap 13, a Williams and Force India collided, causing an opening for a safety car, which came out, and that meant Max could unlap himself and take him to a point where he was back in some sort of contention for a comeback drive. From there, Max showing how special he truly was and all the talent in the world. Singapore is not a track known so well for overtaking, but Max, you wouldn't believe it if you saw him. He was flying by people, getting grips in areas once again throughout his career that he has done, finding them in areas that you shouldn't be able to find. Max continued to push. He managed to get himself all the way up to P8 on a lap 46 overtake, and even after that, he was asked by his team to switch positions with his teammate Carlos Sainz, who seemed to have more pace at the time. Max refused. He fought hard to get there, and yes, throughout his career, he's had some issues with teammate calls and stuff like that, and there is that doubt over his sort of mentality in that side, but he stood firm, got home, got 4 points, finished in 8th. It was a good drive altogether. Credit to Max Verstappen on that one, but it was a sign of his feisty character, his heart, and pure talent. Spain 2016, and it was Max's big moment, but we didn't really see it coming. He was promoted to Red Bull after a disappointing stint from Kvyat at the start of the season, but they were itching to bring him in. They knew it was a decision, but they didn't know. Was it too soon? At 18 years old, all the pressure in the world, many would crumble, but not Max Verstappen. He qualified 4th on his first race for Red Bull after the promotion, and already then we knew we were in for something special. He was behind his teammate Ricciardo, but it was Mercedes' race to lose, but they were ready to do that. On lap 1, Rosberg and Hamilton had the famous incident where they come together, they collide, taking each other completely out of the race. That opened the door for a Red Bull Ferrari showdown, and Max was up for the fight. Ricciardo was battling it out with Vettel as well after the set of pit stops. They collide, ruining Ricciardo's race. This left it all down to a fight between Kimi Räikkönen, a veteran, a former world champion, one of the finest, coldest drivers we've had of this generation, versus the young, up-and-coming talent, potentially a version of himself, and he was hunting him down and he was tracking him, but Verstappen, no matter what, DRS, nothing would stop him. He held strong. He's shown composure way above his years. He was somebody that we're looking at and saying, this is a future world champion. And obviously we have hindsight now to look back and say he became that driver. But this was just number 2, 3, 4, 5 of the examples of that he was going to be this good. And the way he held out, a lot of people will crumble under that pressure. They'd fall to the occasion, but not Max Verstappen. Red Bull was so happy. They were smiling. The cheers were there because it wasn't only one race. They knew they discovered a gem, and that went on years down the line to prove us correct again. Brazil 2016 was an example for Max to show he was a master of the wet. This is something that you see from experienced greats, whether it's Schumacher, Senna, Hamilton. They all have this raw ability to find grip and speed at areas they really shouldn't. But Max almost took that to a whole new level. I'm not saying Max Verstappen is the greatest wet driver of all time, but this is an argument you're going to put together. This race alone is something to show us. So we saw it in 2016, the race was delayed due to severe rain. The race even started under a safety car. We did not get a green flag racing lap until lap 8. And that's where it all started. He got straight out of the gates and he went flying after Kimi Räikkönen, moving himself up to 3rd place, finding grip and speed again on the outside on the wetter parts of the track. He was having a feel for it that no one else was out there. He was absolutely flying, and it continued. He has a serious moment of aquaplaning when he's coming onto the straight and it looks like it's over. Under that pressure, he was going straight into the wall. His race was finished, and still to this day is one of the greatest saves you've seen in F1 to keep it out of the wall. It was absolutely incredible, and that for me was one of the greatest moments. That was when you knew he had every piece it needed to be that guy. On lap 44, he pits, goes onto the full wets. It drops him down to 16th, but he wasn't going to be stopped there. He went back on a surge, flying through, hitting overtakes that he really shouldn't have as well. It was just a comeback drive, taking him all the way to 3rd, a moment that felt almost like a win. It was as good as a win. He has shown the whole world he's this guy and he's ready to be a world champion. He was pushing and he was finding some of the greatest driving you've ever seen in a wet condition, and that for me is again the example of Max Verstappen showing he is the complete F1 great that we thought he was going to be. And they are just a few of the moments that we realised Max Verstappen was that guy. So comment any that you think I missed below, but before we go, let me just sum this up to you. Max Verstappen has had 193 races, 59 wins, giving him a 30.5% win ratio. He has finished on the podium 104 times, which is a conversion rate of 53.9%. He has finished second 29 times and third 16 times. He's had 39 poles, 32 fastest laps, with 19 of them coming in wins, which is insanity. He's had 7 sprint wins. He's made it to Q3 171 out of the 193 attempts, which is ruthless. And in 2023, he became a 3-time world champion with the most dominating season we have ever seen. 21 podiums out of 22 races, 19 of them at race wins. It was unheard of. Is Max Verstappen an all-time great? Yes. Is he the greatest of all time? Not yet. Can he be? Well, let's just say he's on track. Comment your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel, like the video. If I've missed any moments, please fire them comments down below and let me know. I'll see you in the next one.